wonder, like, if your thoughts could actually change reality.
Hmm. Interesting.
Not just like, manifesting a parking spot or something,
Yeah.
but like changing things on a fundamental level,
Right.
like in the realm of quantum mechanics.
Oh, wow.
That's what we're diving into today.
Okay.
We got a listener question about consciousness and its potential role in the quantum world.
It's a question that sits at the forefront of like some really mind-bending science.
Yeah.
We know from quantum mechanics that observation plays a role in the outcome of experiments at the subatomic level.
Right.
But what if the observer isn't a scientist in a lab, but it's like you?
Okay, so let's unpack this a little bit. So you're saying that just by like observing the world around us, our consciousness might be influencing the behavior of like tiny particles?
Yeah.
That's kind of wild. Where do we even begin to like unravel this?
Well, we could start with the idea that our brains themselves might be tapping into quantum weirdness.
Hmm.
What if consciousness itself arises from quantum processes happening inside our brains?
Oh, are you talking about the theory where our brains are basically acting like quantum computers?
Yeah.
I think I read something about that.
Exactly. It's called the Orchard-R theory.
Okay.
And it was put forth by Roger Penrose and Stuart Hameroff.
Right.
And it suggests that within our neurons, there are these tiny structures called microtubules, which act as a kind of scaffolding. And the theory proposes that these microtubules could be the site of quantum computations that give rise to consciousness.
So if I'm understanding this correctly, instead of our brains just being these like complex biological computers,
Right.
they might actually be utilizing quantum mechanics at a fundamental level.
That's the idea.
Wow.
Now, it's important to note that this is still a theory, but if it turns out to be true, it opens up some really interesting possibilities.
Like what?
Okay, so, like,
Yeah, what would it mean if our brains were essentially like quantum computers?
well, for one, it could mean that our minds are capable of influencing other quantum systems outside of us. If our thoughts are the result of quantum processes, it's conceivable that those processes could interact with the quantum world in ways that we don't yet understand.
So our brains being quantum computers could be a possible explanation for how our consciousness might influence the quantum world.
Right.
But then there's this whole other concept, right? Something
Yeah.
about consciousness being woven into the fabric of reality.
Right, you're talking about quantum mysticism.
Yeah, yeah.
This is where things get a little less scientifically clear-cut,
Right.
but no less fascinating, to be sure.
Yeah.
Quantum mysticism explores the idea that consciousness isn't just some byproduct of the universe, but an integral part of its very fabric.
Okay.
It suggests that our consciousness doesn't just observe reality, but actively participates in shaping it, especially at the quantum level.
Okay, so how does that connect back to the idea that, like, our thoughts could influence the quantum world?
Think of it this way. If our consciousness is inseparable from the quantum world,
Right.
then it stands to reason that our thoughts, intentions, and even beliefs could have a direct influence on it.
Okay.
This isn't necessarily about bending spoons with your mind,
Right.
but perhaps about subtle influences on probabilities or outcomes at the quantum level.
So it's not so much about, like, controlling the quantum world, but being a participant in how it unfolds.
Exactly. And this ties into another mind-bending concept, John Wheeler's participatory universe.
Okay.
Wheeler, a prominent physicist,
Yeah.
proposed that the universe doesn't become real or doesn't take on definite properties until it's observed.
Wait, so are you saying that things in the universe exist in this, like, blurry state of potential until we observe them?
Yeah.
And by observing them, we're actually helping to, like, shape reality.
That's essentially the idea.
Wow.
Wheeler believed that our active observation doesn't just passively measure reality.
Right.
It plays an active role in bringing it into existence. It's as if the universe is waiting for us to interact with it, to collapse the wave function of possibilities into something concrete.
Wow, that's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
So if we're following this line of thinking,
Yeah.
could our choices, our very act of observing, be influencing not just the present moment, but also the past?
Now you're getting into some truly mind-bending territory,
I know, right?
and you're not far off.
Really?
There's a type of experiment called a delayed choice experiment.
Yeah.
It suggests this might be possible.
Okay.
It indicates that a decision made in the present can seem to affect something that happened in the past, at least at the quantum level.
Hold on. Are you saying our choices could be echoing backward in time?
Yeah,
How does that even make sense?
it's definitely counterintuitive, but it's one of the implications of these experiments. It's like the universe waits to see what choice we make in the present
Yeah.
and then rewrites the past accordingly.
Oh, wow.
It's all about how our observation collapses those possibilities into one definite outcome.
Okay, this is definitely messing with my understanding of time and reality.
Right.
So we've got our brains potentially acting like quantum computers,
Yeah.
consciousness potentially shaping reality.
Yeah.
But how does this all connect to something like quantum entanglement?
Right.
I mean, isn't that about particles being linked across vast distances?
You're right. Quantum entanglement is about this spooky action at a distance
Mm,
that even Einstein found perplexing.
right.
It's like
Yeah.
two coins flipping together, always landing on opposite sides,
Yeah.
no matter how far apart you separate them.
Right. I've heard about that. So how does this like spooky action tie into the idea of our minds influencing the quantum world?
Well, think about it this way. If particles can be linked in this way across vast distances, could our minds be entangled with the universe itself?
Mm.
Could there be connections between our consciousness and the quantum fabric of reality that we're just beginning to grasp?
Okay, so you're saying there's like a chance our minds could be entangled with the universe, influencing it in ways we like barely understand.
It's a fascinating possibility.
If that's true, is there like any evidence to suggest our minds have a direct impact on the quantum world?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Hmm.
And while we don't have, definitive proof,
Right.
there are experiments out there trying to measure the influence of human intention on quantum systems.
Wait, really? What do those like look like? Are we
Yeah.
talking like people trying to move objects with their minds?
Not quite telekinesis, but you're on the right track.
Okay.
One type of experiment uses what are called random number generators.
Okay.
Imagine like a digital coin flip that spits out a constant stream of zeros and ones.
Okay, so it's random like a digital coin toss.
Right.
What do people in the experiment try to do? Like control the outcome?
Exactly. They'll focus their intention on influencing the generator, trying to make it produce more ones than zeros, or vice versa.
And what have these experiments shown? Can people actually influence the outcome with their minds?
The results are interesting, to say the least.
Okay.
Some studies have shown small, but statistically significant effects,
Hmm.
hinting that there might be something there.
Okay.
However, it's important to note that these results haven't been, reliably replicated in every study.
So the jury is still out on whether our intention can directly influence these random events.
For now, yes.
Okay.
But the fact that we're even asking these questions
Right.
and designing experiments to test them shows how far we've come in exploring the intersection of consciousness and quantum mechanics.
It's like we're at the very beginning of something huge, like discovering a new continent of scientific inquiry. So where do we go from here?
Yeah.
What are the next steps in figuring out if our minds can actually affect the quantum world?
That's the exciting part. One of the biggest hurdles is finding ways to study both consciousness and quantum systems
Yeah.
with the rigor and sensitivity they demand. We need to acknowledge that if our minds are influencing these systems, it's likely in very subtle ways.
So it's less about big dramatic effects and more like trying to pick up a whisper in a hurricane.
Precisely. It requires incredibly precise measurement tools and experimental designs. For example, researchers are exploring variations of the double-slit experiment, the one demonstrating the wave-like behavior of particles, to see if it can, shed light on the role of consciousness.
Right, that makes sense. But more precise tools and experiments aside, is there anything else we need to consider?
Absolutely. I think we need to be open to expanding our definition of evidence itself.
Okay.
Traditionally, science relies on, objective observation and measurement.
Right.
Consciousness, however, is inherently subjective.
Right. It's our own personal experience of the world.
Exactly. So we need to find ways to bridge that gap between the objective and subjective, to incorporate first-person experience into our scientific understanding of how the mind might interact with the quantum world.
It's almost like we need a whole new scientific discipline, one that combines physics, neuroscience, psychology, maybe even philosophy to tackle these questions.
You're hitting on a crucial point. When dealing with questions about the nature of reality and the power of consciousness, The traditional boundaries between scientific disciplines start to blur.
So as they say, we don't know what we don't know.
Exactly. And that's what makes this whole area of exploration so captivating. We're stepping into the unknown,
Yeah.
challenging our assumptions, and who knows what we might find.
It's like incredible to think about all the potential implications if our minds really do have this influence in the quantum world, you know?
Yeah.
We're not just talking about like laboratory curiosities here,
Right.
but something that could like fundamentally change how we understand ourselves and the universe.
You're absolutely right. It
Yeah.
raises profound philosophical and ethical questions.
Right.
If our thoughts can influence reality, even at, a subtle level, what does that mean for how we live our lives?
Exactly. Should we be more mindful of our thoughts,
Right.
knowing they might have this like ripple effect even if we can't see it?
It's a fascinating question to consider, and if we take this idea further,
Yeah.
it could revolutionize fields beyond just physics.
Right.
Imagine the potential impacts on medicine, technology,
Yeah.
even our understanding of consciousness itself.
It's mind-blowing, really. But let's bring it back to our listener's original question.
Okay.
Can our minds directly influence quantum systems?
Right.
After like diving into all this research, do we have a definitive answer?
If you're looking for a simple yes or no,
Yeah.
I'm afraid we're not there yet. The honest answer is it's still a mystery.
So we've come full circle.
Right.
We started with a mystery.
Yeah.
Explored some like incredible possibilities, and we still have a mystery.
That's the beauty of science, isn't it?
Yeah.
Every answer often leads to more questions.
Right.
But even if we never find, absolute proof that our minds can bend spoons or teleport objects,
Right.
the very act of exploring this question could lead to incredible breakthroughs that we haven't even imagined.
Yeah, I love that perspective. It's like we're explorers charting a new frontier of science.
Right.
Who knows what wonders we'll uncover along the way?
Exactly. It's a journey of pushing boundaries,
Yeah.
challenging assumptions, and expanding our understanding of what's possible. And, in the process, we might just revolutionize how we see the universe and our place within it.
Well said. We've given you a lot to think about today, and hopefully we've sparked your curiosity to explore these ideas further.
Yeah.
Remember, even though we don't have all the answers, it's the questions we ask that, drive us forward.
Right.
So keep asking those big mind-bending questions.
Yeah.
And who knows what amazing discoveries you might make.
And don't forget, sometimes the most profound journeys begin with a simple question. Keep exploring,
Yeah.
keep wondering, and most importantly, keep an open mind.
That's the perfect note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the intersection of consciousness and quantum mechanics. Until next time, keep those minds curious.